we have something called the doctrine of discovery. And basically what happened was the religious community, specifically the Pope, gave those that followed the Catholic way of life permission to conquer, to kill, to destroy indigenous peoples and get their lands if they were not Christians, and to declare that land theirs. And so they set off across the oceans, and that's exactly what they did. The very first person to declare our land was the Spanish. Then it was the French. The French came, and of course they declared all of the Great Lakes theirs.
When the British came in and defeated the French, they assumed a sovereignty over this piece of eastern North America. That's how arrogant the British are, right? They just assumed we have sovereignty over this piece of land, over New France, and over the 13 colonies. Jeffrey Amherst, we're hearing about that right now. There's statues to Amherst and Jeffrey Amherst. Yeah, he was a racist. He became the commander-in-chief of British forces after 1760s, 59. And Amherst thought that he captured Quebec, Louisbourg, and Montreal. It broke the back of the French Empire, and he thought he would be hailed as a hero. But then, what happens? Pontiac.
So Pontiac was an incredible warrior. His whole body was covered with tattoos. And he was known to like the French. He did not like the British.
Pontiac attacks Fort Detroit and unleashes his fury on the British forts, and that becomes the yoke around Jeffrey Amherst's neck.
So during the Plains of Abraham, that's when the British defeated the French and were able to claim title over this land, which was Crown land. Of course, the indigenous people weren't having it. They were fighting the British at the time.
William Johnson was smart enough to know that we'll never win a war against the Great Lakes tribes. So we have to appease them in another way. It was William Johnson who helped to orchestrate Jeffrey Amherst's removal back to Britain, because he was a land speculator, William Johnson. He was big time. And he was married into the Six Nations. Talk about a conflict of interest. And he reversed the Amherst policy of no alcohol. We don't hear about that. We don't hear about what that did. Go back to your communities and unleash your chaos against yourselves. Murder yourselves because we don't care. The whole British concept of being able to gain a foothold in eastern North America would be accomplished if the people can destroy themselves.
So at the time when Sir William Johnson was the authority for the British in dealing with Indians, the native people were getting big barrels of whiskey that was just full of poison, and they were dying from this poisoned whiskey. And it was Sir William Johnson that turned those policies around so that the indigenous people could be traded whiskey for lands and for furs. So they say that we're a nation in that particular document. I don't care. Our lands were claimed by the British and stolen, and that's the founding document. The French and the British fought. It was the British that defeated the French, and then they came up with the Royal Proclamation and said, "This is Crown land. You are a nation. Do not sell your land to the French."
The Royal Proclamation established a line. It was really the British were concerned about the American colonists. There was nothing happening here, right? pre-1763, nothing. So they struck a line along the crest of the Appalachians, and they said there couldn't be no settlement west of the Appalachians. It was happening in the 1750s and the 1740s that settlement was pushing west. And you had these land companies that would be struck, and they were speculating, and they were doing their own treaties with the Six Nations, and so it was doomed for failure.
So our people had ways of knowing and predicting what was going to happen in the future, and they used the spirit of this land to interpret certain agreements and certain things that were going to take place. And of course, during the Treaty of Niagara, they see a turtle help them, and foreseeing the future of the British and how they're going to be coming across the ocean and through the rivers into the territory. And so that's why our people went to Niagara with an open mind. It was because this turtle seen that they were going to come and that they were never going to stop coming.